Right now, we're going to talk about this vulnerability, this huge vulnerability in almost the entire internet that is going to affect your life over the next number of years. And if your businesses, you better pay close attention. Well, we are looking at what is being called the single biggest, most critical vulnerability ever. And if you want more information on this, have a look at last week's show. You'll find it up on my website. I talked quite a bit about it. You can email me, me@craigpeterson.com. I've put together a little cheat sheet that you can use in order to find out what should I do if you're an IT professional. This isn't something that you can do if you're a regular home user, because you probably don't have any software you're maintaining that has this log4j vulnerability. But I do have to warn you that you probably do have a little bit of hardware that might have it in there. Many of these firewalls that are used in homes have it. Not all of them, just in fact a minority of them. But here's why this is the single biggest and most critical vulnerability ever. There is a programming library that is used in the Java programming language that logs events. If you're writing software, and let's say the software is running a website, it could be almost anything, and you notice a condition that's not quite right, what should you do? Well, you should log it. And then hopefully the people that are running your software are monitoring the logs, see the logs, know, oh my gosh, my golly, there is something wrong here. One of the logs that I keep an eye on that just absolutely amazes me, frankly, is the SSH Daemon logs. Now, SSH is a protocol that uses encryption that allows people to get onto other machines using the command line. Now, I've used a lot of protocols over the years to do this. Telnet was the first, and SSH is something I've been using for a very long time. You might remember the Heartbleed bug from a few years back that really nailed a lot of people. But I keep an eye on that SSH log because if someone's trying to log into my system from the internet, that log is going to show it. It's going to say that someone tried to use this username, they were coming from this IP address, and they failed to get in. And I have software that automatically monitors that log and says, well, if someone's coming from the same internet address multiple times and they are unsuccessful at logging in, add their internet address to my firewall blocking rules. So what ends up happening is what? Well, they just can't even get to my machine anymore. Obviously, they're trying to hack me. Same thing's true with the web logs. If we have people who are trying to, for instance, kind of put us out of business, doing what's called a denial of service attack, where they are sending us a lot of data, well, we can, at our site or upstream from us, have that IP address blocked. And that stops the attack. Distributed denial of service attacks are a little bit more complicated. So all of this gets logged. It all gets written to a file, or it gets pushed off to a server that keeps track of the logs. And then there's analysis software that looks at logs for anomalies, all of that sort of stuff. It makes a lot of sense, right? But this particular library that's used by Java programmers has a bug in it that allows a remote user to send just a small string, nothing fancy at all, that can command the web server that is using the logging function to go ahead and download malware. Well, the easiest low-hanging fruit when it comes to what kind of malware can we put onto a computer is quite simply crypto mining. So the bad guys will go ahead and they'll just send a small string, very simple. They don't have to compile the program. They don't have to do much of anything. They just send this little small string. And if that string gets logged, for instance, by my SSH, my remote access daemon, or gets logged by the web server or something else, all of a sudden that wonderful little feature that allowed you to easily log things is your enemy. Because that feature is going to interpret that particular string that was sent to the log and try and be helpful. But in fact, it could be given a command to download this remote file and then run that remote file. And that remote file initially here is primarily being crypto mining software. So now your computer is being used by someone else, your electricity is being used to mine things like bitcoins or some of these other cryptocurrencies that are out there. Now, the real reason this is a huge problem, again, let me quote here. This is from Ahmad, Yoran over at Tenable. It is by far the single biggest, most critical vulnerability ever. Why is that true? There's a couple of reasons. The ease of use is the obvious reason. It is so easy to use, not just for crypto mining, but for hacking any machine you would care to hack. And then the second reason is it is embedded everywhere. There are millions of computers that are vulnerable. We're seeing 100 computers per minute being hacked using this vulnerability. And if you are running, let's say, a firewall that has this vulnerability, we have some clients that had this vulnerability, and it is obviously a bit of a problem, right? Well, that vulnerability now allows bad guys to get onto that firewall and perhaps beyond that firewall in order to do pretty much whatever they want to do. This is huge. Lots of software has flaws, and you need to be able to recover from the flaws. I've talked many times about how there are only two types of software out there. There's software that has been hacked, and there's software that will be hacked. So you need to make sure you know that if someone gets into your network or gets into your computer, that you can restrict the damages. You can keep it under control. But with this log4j vulnerability being everywhere, in not just that one library, but remember that one library is used all over the place. It's in hundreds of thousands of pieces of software. Now, every one of these vendors has to grab the most recent version, recompile their software, and send and relink it. It depends, right? I understand this is Java. And then send it out to all of their customers to install the software. This is the second reason it is such a big deal. There will be sites, there will be pieces of software that have this vulnerability for years to come. And one of the biggest examples of this vulnerability is almost every Android device out there. Think of all of the phones people have. Android's been used for tablets, it's in televisions, it's everywhere. And with this particular vulnerability being everywhere, every vendor that uses Android is going to have to release patches that you're going to have to install. Now, it's one thing to have a brand new TV. We've got a brand new Samsung TV, and it's hooked up to the internet. It streams Disney and Discovery, and it's just a wonderful thing. I love my TV, right? And of course, you probably realize I don't use smart TV features because of this particular type of problem. What ends up happening? Well, how long is Samsung actually going to support updates for your television? Or Vizio, who, by the way, one of the worst companies when it comes to the privacy of your information on your television. How long? How about your Android phones? More than half of all Android smartphones out there will never get another software update. If you are still using Android smartphones, now is the time to switch to an iPhone. I have been talking about this for years. I am not like the world's biggest Apple fan. I'm not trying to make everybody an Apple fan. I really don't care. What I do care about is the ability of the software designers, the software implementers, the hardware manufacturers, the people that are in the supply chain on that Android device. I care that they do provide updates when it comes to security problems. And if you're using an iPhone, yeah, again, two types of software, right? iPhones have had vulnerabilities. They can be vulnerable. But Apple is supporting right now still the iPhone 6S, which came out, 5 or 6 years ago, with full security updates. They've even gone back further sometimes than that. So make the switch right now. If you are an IT professional, I've got this whole list of resources that I've vetted, I know are good, that you can use to scan for this vulnerability in your network or on your software. Just email me, me@craigpeterson.com. And if you have any questions about this or cybersecurity in general, just reach out. Again, me@craigpeterson.com. Did you know that cyber flashing is a thing? We talked about it a couple of years ago, but it's back in the news this week. And also, Apple AirTags. They just released a new feature for our friends with Android. We'll tell you why. Have you seen these AirTags? Have you used them? They came from an idea that was really pioneered by a company called Tile. And I guess I don't know what happened with the patent. I guess they didn't have one, or Apple wouldn't have been able to do this. But then again, you've got a really big company you're up against. It doesn't matter whether you're in the right sometimes. So I'm not sure what happened there. But they have these trackers called AirTags. And I mentioned before on the show that my daughters have a total of 5 cats. Well, actually 6 cats now that I think of it. And what they've done is bought AirTags and put them on all of the cats' collars. So they took them, they've got them fastened on with this little holder. You can get all kinds of holders. The AirTags themselves are just little round buttons, really. And you can stick them into your wallet, for instance, in case you keep forgetting or losing your wallet. You can also put them into a holder so they go on a keychain. I have a couple of flashlights at the house. And if you're like me and you have other people around and it's dark and they know where your flashlight is, they'll take and borrow it, right? And then now you don't get your flashlight back. It kind of bothers me. It probably shouldn't bother me as much as it does. But then when I need the flashlight, I just can't find the silly thing. So what did we put on the flashlight? We put an AirTag on there. So the AirTag ties into your iPhone. And if you have a newer iPhone, it's just absolutely amazing. Because the AirTag will tell you where it is, but the newer iPhones, you can use it, and it will walk you right up to the AirTag. Like, okay, it's a foot in front of you on the left-hand side or whatever. It'll take you there. It's very cool. It's like these futuristic sci-fi movies. So the problem with AirTags that we discussed on the air here is that they have been used for evil. And what the bad guys have been doing is they'll take an AirTag, they might drop it in your purse in order to follow you. Isn't that scary? They also have been taking the AirTags and putting them on expensive cars so that they can follow you home. Now, obviously, nowadays, it's extremely hard to steal one of the more expensive cars because they've got all of this automation in them, the fancy systems to stop you from stealing it. Even my old F-150 had a little chip built into the key so that it wouldn't start unless that key that was starting it actually had that RFID chip in it. So that this technology isn't being used so much to steal the car, but to know where you live and when you are home and when you're not home. You know, I've been warning everybody for many years not to post on social media about vacation, saying, yeah, we're leaving, we're going to be gone in the Caribbean for 2 weeks, we're going for New Year's party here, Christmas there, Hanukkah celebration, whatever it is you're doing, because the bad guys use that information to break into your home and to steal things from your business. And I'm not going to get into all the details right now of how they do that. I've talked about it on the show before, and I'm sure I will talk about it again. And you'll even see some of the references on my website at craigpeterson.com if you're interested. There's some real interesting stories up there of what's happened to people. But that particular problem of having an AirTag and then having it put onto you to track you or to track your car or other devices is a huge potential problem. Now, Apple built into the iPhone a special little feature some time ago that when they came out with the AirTags, so that when an AirTag is following you, in other words, someone dropped it into your purse or your pocket or on your car, and that AirTag is moving with you, it says, hey, guy, there is an AirTag following you. And at that point, you can say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Now, it's not going to warn you about your own AirTags, you know, the ones that you own. It's going to warn you about a foreign AirTag, one that's not yours. In other words, someone's trying to track you. So, brilliant move on Apple's part to get that out right away before there were any really scary bad news stories about the same thing happening. How about Android users? That's where the problem really is starting to come up. If you're an Android user, you don't have the ability to detect an AirTag. Well, until now. So if an AirTag was following you, it wouldn't let you know. It couldn't let you know. It didn't know. So Apple's now offering what's called Tracker Detect. It's an app on the Google Play Store, a free app that you can download if you're using Android. And, you know, there are many, 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 many reasons not to use Android. And there's almost as many to use iPhones, okay? So if you're using Android, switch to an iPhone. But if you're stuck on Android because that's what your business gave you and so you have to use it, have a look for Tracker Detect. And the app's description on the Play Store says Tracker Detect looks for item trackers that are separated from their owner and that are compatible with Apple's Find My network. These item trackers include AirTags and compatible devices from other companies. If you think someone is using AirTag or another device to track your location, you can scan to try and find it. So I'm not sure that it's as good as the Apple implementation, where the Apple will pop up and say, even though you're not scanning for an AirTag, you say, hey, somebody's tracking you. It sounds like you have to actually use the app to scan for it. But Android users, according to MacTrust, can scan the area to find nearby AirTag trackers if they think that there's an AirTag or other device that's being used to track their location. An Apple support document that you'll find online on support.apple.com says that if you think someone is using an AirTag or other item tracker to track your location, you can scan to try and find it. If the app detects an AirTag near you for at least 10 minutes, you can play a sound to help locate it. So that's the part that makes me think that it's always active, okay, on your Android device. It's free, and you can get it right there in the Google Play Store. This next item is really, it applies to all of us here in the U.S., and it applies also to people over in the UK. And the UK is really getting kind of upset about this because apparently there are no laws against cyber flashing. Now, there are in the US, and it kind of depends on where you live. But cyber flashing is really a crime, or should be a crime. What's been happening is people, again, who have iPhones, have this ability to share files or websites, etc., with another person. It's fantastic. It's called AirDrop. I just love this, and I use it all the time, even to share files between my own devices. And what happens with AirDrop is you take the file and you open up AirDrop and you see, oh, okay, there's my wife right there. So I click on the file, I drag it on top of the little Karen icon in AirDrop, and now she gets a notice, hey, there's a file from Craig coming on in, and it does. Well, I always, and my family and my business people, I always set the AirDrop settings to only allow an AirDrop from people that are in my contact list. And the reason for that is this particular problem. People have been cyber flashing. So what they do is they send obscene pictures to strangers through AirDrop. And this term can also, of course, apply to Bluetooth devices, because you can also send these things via Bluetooth. Now, I don't want to really talk a lot about what's really happening here. Hopefully you know what flashing is, or a flasher is sending these obscene pictures. But the term was coined in August 2015. This female commuter was airdropped 2 pictures, obscene pictures, and they reported it to the British Transport Police. But I've seen and I've talked about cases where people are driving down the highway and all of a sudden on their phone come these obscene pictures because someone was driving past and they airdropped, or they used Bluetooth to send obscene pictures. There is an easy way to not allow that to happen, and that is the settings that I use, which is only allow AirDrop from people in your contact list. You know, these are absolutely amazing features that they have, but there are some really weird people out there that think that this is a fun way to really mess with other people. It's just crazy, okay? By the way, you can also turn AirDrop off if you never use it. Don't worry about it. Or you turn it on when you need it and when someone's going to send something to you. Hey, I want you guys to take a couple of minutes here. If you go to craigpeterson.com/subscribe, you're going to find out about the boot camps we have. You're going to get my weekly trainings that I have. These are just an email. They just last a few minutes. You are going to love them. I get all kinds of compliments. And this is in my free newsletter, okay? It's not going to cost you anything. I'm not going to be hammering you on buying stuff. I want this information out. That's why I am here today on the radio. Everybody needs to understand this stuff. craigpeterson.com/subscribe, and I will be seeing you in the email world. One of the things we wonder the most about is what's the future? What's the future of laptops and future of computers? We talked about some of these new chips that are out there, but this is an interesting story about what Dell is doing. Yeah, Dell. I want to follow up a little bit about the 3G shutdown. We didn't quite get through the list. Almost all of the Volvos from 2015 on to 2018 have this problem. There's only 2 automakers that told the drive.com that its U.S. vehicles are unaffected by the end of 3G. So if you own a Ferrari or a McLaren, you're okay. Okay. Also, what's interesting is what the different guys are doing. Subaru has an interesting little plan here going forward. If you have what they call a connected vehicle plan, and this is according to a service bulletin filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, then they will do a retrofit at no cost. How's that for nice? A lot of these manufacturers are upgrading to 4G. Yeah, the LTE, the stuff that was really fast. You remember that? I was remembering getting 50 megabits in that. It was just incredible. But at any rate, they're offering that and the option to purchase a subscription to 4G. So you'll be able to get 2 gig of data per month at $10 a month. Now that's for some manufacturers. Not all of them have it. $30 a month if you want unlimited data. So it depends how much you're driving. GM started pushing a free over-the-air update in October to keep OnStar running after the 3G shutdown, though some 2015 model year cars will need a hardware swap. Tesla says it plans to charge $200 to upgrade older Model S vehicles, but no additional fees are noted for it. Toyota and Lexus are not planning to retrofit any affected vehicles. In its public FAQ, Toyota cites a clause in its disclosures that said certain connected services may change at any time without notice. And when the Drive asked Toyota if it plans to offer an upgrade, paid or otherwise, for consumers who own affected vehicles, the answer was a simple no. And Toyota, by the way, is one of the companies that has decided, hey, we're just going to go ahead and, you know that remote start that you got for those cold winters? Yeah, we've decided that even though you paid for it, 3-4 years ago, we're going to start charging you monthly to use your remote start. Come on, guys. So have a look. Try and find out, talk to your automotive dealer, or go to DuckDuckGo and look up your car and type in 3G end of life at the same time and see what it comes up with. Get your model in there. But I am very disappointed with Toyota. I have some friends that just love Toyota. I bought a brand new one way back when it would have been like 82, 3, something like that. Great little car, Cressida with a Supra engine in it. And I drove that for quite a few years. A good, tough little car. I had to keep replacing the water pump, but that was the only problem I ever had with it. But I haven't owned a Toyota since then. But this is, and I've actually been thinking about it lately, but this is something that really turns me off. I don't know about you. Let's get into our next little problem area, and that is fleet managers. If you are relying on electronic logging devices and other Internet of Things devices to track your trucking fleet, there are some problems. Let's see here. Here's a quote. This is from Tech Republic. John Nichols, Executive Vice President of Sales for North America at Mix Telematics, estimated that about 80% of his customers are still using 3G devices. Now, this was about a year ago. This is from a November 2020 article. So this is going to be a very big problem for you as well. For any people who have fleet vehicles that they're trying to maintain. Hopefully you know about this. Hopefully your vendors are going to take care of it for you. I'm impressed that GM set their cars up with the hardware that can handle 3G and 4G, and all you need is a software upgrade to have it switch. I think that was very smart of them. So kudos to GM for that particular thing. Dell, let's get into the future of computers and laptop design. Dell's been doing some interesting things. Now, you probably heard me a couple of weeks ago bemoan Dell because they have business specialists and experts that you can call that really know almost nothing about what you really need. And it just drives me crazy because Dell has been selling my customers hardware that doesn't meet the customer's needs. Because frankly, the customers don't really know what their needs are. And so that's something that I've helped them with. And if you email me at craigpeterson.com, I've written a thing up on what the best computers to buy are based on what it is you need. You know, what are the tricks that you need to follow. But what Dell is doing right now is something they're calling Concept Luna. And I've seen things like this before. There was a cell phone that was being manufactured that allowed you to change modules. They were literally just click and go, kind of like Lego almost. And the phones weren't that popular. I don't even think they're in business anymore. I can't remember their name. But those particular click and goes were clicked and gone is kind of the bottom line on it, because they were kind of big, they were kind of clumsy, they weren't really something people wanted to use. Android comes from Google. And Google has their basic tests and says this is what Android should look like. But every manufacturer puts their own look and feel on top of that Android operating system. And what that ends up doing for you is, makes it a little more pleasant. And also makes it so that you don't really, really want to go and change your phones because you're used to the way this particular phone works. But Dell is looking at doing kind of the same thing. They're looking at this electronic waste problem where you have a laptop, it gets old, you throw it away. But now it looks like there's more sustainability built into things like this Luna design. They're trying to make the company's laptops more environmentally friendly, and in the process, they're going to make them more repairable, which is kind of cool. If you look at what Apple's done in their laptops, there's basically nothing inside there that's user replaceable. Okay, you can probably replace the battery. I use a company, I've had their president on my show a few times, Larry Connor, I think it is his last name, but OWC, Other World Computing, and they've got great little upgrades and replacement parts and videos on how to do it and all the tools you need to upgrade your Mac. But nowadays, Apple is soldering the memory on the motherboard, or even more recently using the Apple chips. And by the way, this is part of the reason they're so fast. They are putting the memory right on the same silicone as the CPU itself. So they're moving towards one chip with everything on it. So if you buy an Apple computer nowadays, I love them. They are great. They've got great security built in, etc., etc. But you better buy a computer that has enough memory and enough storage on it to last you for some years, because a lot of these computers, I'm picking on Apple right now, but there's a lot of other vendors the same way. They are not upgradable. But Concept Luna should work pretty well. Borrowing this idea from, that's right, it was Framework. That was the name of it. Anyways, stick around and visit me online, craigpeterson.com. If you own a car and that car has been made all the way up to 2021 and your car is using the internet via 3G, which is most cars, I got a little news for you. We are looking at a real big problem here that most people haven't heard of. I was talking, in fact, this week on the air with someone who has a car, it's a Volvo, and they have a remote little starter, which has been great for them. And they were informed that they needed to do an upgrade. And that upgrade turned out to be very costly. I had another listener who has a solar panel on the roof of their house. And the solar panel on that roof is designed to be able to get updates, software updates, let you know what's the charge like, how much sun is there today, maybe you should brush off some of the snow. All of that is communicated via the internet. But how? How is that working? The problem that most vendors have is how do they get the data to and from their devices? If you think about, for instance, Elon Musk with the wonderful little Tesla cars, they want to push an update. And we're seeing this more and more, by the way. The older cars, most cars, non-Teslas, you take them into the dealer for service, and while it's there, they go ahead and plug it in. They download new software, firmware from the internet, install it on your car, and you are off and driving. Maybe you're none the wiser. Maybe you got some new features. So it's one thing for them to have control over a basic network. A network that a car dealer might have, where they say, okay, here's the specs. You need this much download speed, you need that, you need the other thing. Simple enough. But how about you and your home, or you and your business? How does that time system keep track of the employees when they sign in and out? Does it upload it to the internet? Did you have to plug it into your network? Did you have to hook it up to your Wi-Fi? I can tell you from personal experience, anytime we touch a network and there is a problem later on, we own the problem, even if we had nothing to do with it. It's another Craigism. Whoever touched the computer last owns the next problem. So these vendors have decided, well, we can solve that problem. All we need to do is use cellular phone data. So they put effectively a little cell phone onto their devices. Just like that Volvo we were talking about, or other high-end luxury cars. So the solar panel has a 3G modem in it. The cars have 3G modems in them to unlock the doors, to start the engine in many cases, right? They also have updates that come down from the cloud, quote unquote, over 3G for your navigation system to let you know, hey, there's heavy traffic. I'm going to reroute you. We're rerouting. All of that data coming from the 3G network, coming through it or being pushed up via the 3G network, all of that data is in trouble. And it's in trouble because every major carrier is eliminating 3G next year. Yeah, it is really that bad. AT&T is shutting down 3G services in February, Sprint's following in March, and T-Mobile in July, and Verizon on December 31st. All of them 2022. That is a very big deal and a very big problem. So what can you do about it? Well, it depends. The roof solar panels we were just talking about, their vendor told them they could do the upgrade for them, and it would be $800. Very, very big deal. We also had other people who were talking about their cars and what had to happen with them. And cars look like they're tending to be more expensive. You can expect to pay between $500 and $2,500 for an upgrade, because many of them are saying, hey, we're not going to just fix this one problem. We have to replace the whole module. And that means we have to replace your infotainment system in your car. Infotainment, of course, being basically everything that has to do with your GPS navigation, your satellite radio, your CarPlay from Apple or Android Car, whatever it is you might be using. That's why it gets so expensive. So keep an eye out. This is going to be a very, very big deal. We're looking at everything from owner applications, like going ahead and starting that engine to warm it up, to emergency call services, to in-navigation functionality, reporting telematics, which is the data about your car back to the dealership. ultimately. So, your car says, you need to go in and get your oil changed, and it's going to be, we can set up an appointment you want it. And, some of them are very, very fancy. And all of that is going to go away, and includes a lot of luxury cars all the way through some 2021 models, but many of them, if not most of them, through 2019. Okay, is that a very, very big deal or what? These 3G towers are going away. The companies, the cell phone companies, are planning on reusing that bandwidth. And they're going to put it into where? Yeah, 5G. Exactly, 5G. So here's a few cars that you might want to be concerned about. Acura, they have something called Link. And they have, the MDX, ILX, RDX, RLX, TLX, NSX. That kind of sounds like almost all of them. So Acura is going to have a problem with almost all of their cars that were made between 2014 and 2017. Audi, they're going to have problems with, again, all their cars, A3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the RS, Q3, 5, and 7. Yeah, pretty much all of their cars from 2012 through 2018. So Audi saw this coming and decided to fix it early. So good for them. So basically, if your car is older than 2018 model year, you're going to have some problems. Bentley, a number of models produced prior to 2020. And if you're driving a Bentley and you want to give it to some guy, a really great looking guy, you can just let me know. Craig, me at craigpeterson.com. BMW, number models produced before 2019. General Motors, models made between 2015 and 2021 across its fleet will be affected. But it's not breaking down which specific vehicles across its brands of Buick, Cadillac, Chevy, GMC. But they did, in this case, it's the drive.com, track down a technical service bulletin that indicates almost every post-2015 model is affected. Okay? Yeah, OnStar. Bye-bye. Honda, again, pretty much everything from 2018 to 2021. Lexus, all models, 2010 to 2017. Mazda, pretty much everything, 2016 to 2019. Mitsubishi, every Eclipse Cross and Outlander. Porsche, 911s, 18s, 718s, etc., etc., etc. All of them. 2014 to 2019. Subaru, pretty much everything, 2016 and on. Tesla, Model S built before 2015. Toyota, they got some interesting problems. 2010 and on. Volkswagen, much the same. Stick around. Visit me online, craigpeterson.com.